Good afternoon, it's Derek, one of the hosts of the Play Away podcast. Just a quick primer on today's episode. Once again, we've recorded a few episodes this week and decided the content of the latter episode would serve you slightly better because it's a little more time sensitive. So no, you aren't crazy, not completely off your rocker. This is episode 6. Episode 5 will be posted later this week. So now that you know, and knowing is half the battle, welcome back to the Play Away podcast. On with the show.
In a world where comics, movies, games, rumors, and Kardashians come at you 24/7, 3 champions will rise to defend you from wasting precious time, money, and emojis. BK, Nate, and Derek will show you how to do it the player way.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome back. Episode 6 of the Player Way podcast.
Yo, Shaw is right.
Yeah, as my co-host Derek would say. Exactly.
That's me. Salutations. Yo, Shaw, corrupting the system over here.
And Nate is, as we told you guys on the last episode, he is over dining on Bonchan, the best Korean fried chicken ever, and I'm so jealous. After our last episode, Derek and I tried our best to get flights out, but we have responsibilities.
Hey,
these kids.
We gotta at least recognize to these kids. Psych.
Anyway, sorry, inside joke.
We gotta at least give Nate a shout out with regards to day 14 of the rickets outbreak.
Man, yeah, yes, absolutely. If you want to know more about the rickets outbreak and what that's about, go back and watch some of our episodes. If this is your first time listening to the Playway podcast, let me give you a quick rundown of what we're about. We live in this day and age where life moves pretty fast. If you don't slow down to look around and smell the roses, you might miss it. And that's something that Ferris Bueller believed, and that's something that we believe. And so we're just helping you curate the different things that enrich our lives as human beings. You know, you're at work. You're probably listening to this on the way to work. You might be listening to this at work. We're kind of helping you to say, hey, here's things you can do when you get off work. Here's some things, and we'll help you understand how to curate your content the player way.
That's right, BK. And if I could elaborate on that, because how often have you gotten stuck going through categories of movies, TV shows, articles, and you get lost and be like, what do I want to watch? I know what I want to watch, but I don't know what I want to watch. Well, that's what we do, right, BK? That's what we
absolutely.
We do.
I mean, with all of the different movies, we're in summer, we're in blockbuster season. It's very easy to suffer from box office fatigue, or there's so much content on YouTube and Hulu and even on Facebook. There's so much content
Amazon,
everywhere. It's
YouTube.
hard to know what to focus on at one particular time or another. So Nate, Derek, and I usually get together and we just press record on our weekly conversation. We're just friends and we love to talk, and we just press the record button and you guys get to just hear it and hear what we talk about. If you get something out of it, that's great. Give us a like on our Facebook page, the Play Your Way Network. You can go to our website, playlifeyourway.com, or you can go on iTunes or Google Play, or any of the outlets where you can get our content from, and leave us a comment and subscribe so that you can always understand when the next episode comes out. But as for this episode, we're going to start off because I just got through watching UFC Fight Night 109, and I just want to give everybody a quick rundown. So let's start the music.
MMA Rundown.
And let's get right on into it. So here are some results so you can understand what happened at UFC 109. Many people, because of the Memorial Day weekend, you were probably out at the movies and stuff like that. And normally fight nights happen either on like a Friday night or a Saturday night. But when you have these 3-day weekends, they tend to throw it onto like a Sunday. And because they had it overseas, it ended up being kind of early. It was in Stockholm, Sweden, this one. So just giving you a quick rundown. First, the undercard, Damir Hadzovic defeats Marcin Held via third round KO. Darren Till defeated Jason Ayari via unanimous decision. Bojan Velkovic defeated Nico Musoke via third round TKO. Joaquim Silva defeated Reza Madadi via split decision. Trevor Smith defeated Chris Camozzi via unanimous decision. Pedro Munoz defeated Damian Stasiak via unanimous decision. And then going into the main card, Jack Hermanson defeated Alex Nicholson via first round TKO. Devastating. Nordine Taleb defeated Oliver Enkamp via unanimous decision. Omari Akhmedov defeated Adbul Razak Al-Hassan via split decision. Peter Sabota defeated Ben Saunders via second round TKO. Volkan Oezdemir. There you go. Defeated Misha Serkonov via first round TKO.
Serkonov.
Exactly. There you go. And the main
He beat
card.
me up very much in first round. TKO.
And lights lots
Punch
vodka.
lock in my face.
And lights lots vodka.
He drinks lots of vodka.
Exactly.
Where is my birth? Where's my birth?
Yeah.
Where's my birth?
Where's my board? Exactly. And then the main card, the fight that we really watched through all of these names for, is Alexander Gustafsson defeated Glover Teixeira via fifth round TKO. It was a battle, but Gustafsson beat that man like he stole his lunch money. I mean, it was intense.
You shall say my name.
And on top of that, in his hometown, no less, and he ended up ending the night by getting engaged. So, pretty great night. Shout out to Gustafsson.
Oh, wow.
And
Congratulations.
the reason why this fight nights are not always something that we would report on, but this particular fight night was incredibly important because the most exciting division right now, the one that's getting a lot of play-by-play, is the light heavyweight division, because the exclamation point of the summer is the return of John Jones. Bones is coming back, and he is looking to defeat DC, Daniel Cormier, the current reigning champion, and get his title back. So the reason why this is important, because Gustafsson of anyone who ever gave John Jones the most trouble, it was this man, Alexander Gustafsson. A lot of people felt like if that match had gone on one more round, Gustafsson would have won. And so in many people's minds, John Jones doesn't want to fight Gustafsson anymore. And for a little while, Gustafsson was on a little bit of a losing streak because he did lose against DC, who grinded him out and beat him. So in either case, he didn't definitively lose in such a way that people thought that he couldn't have won. Many people thought mainly he was just kind of inexperienced and really wasn't seasoned yet. But defeating Glover Teixeira, who by many people's minds I personally didn't think Gustafsson was going to win this one. I'm putting it to you like that. I thought Glover was going to knock him out first round, and it was going to be on to the next one. So Gustafsson coming back, and amazing.
What was nuts,
Yeah.
BK?
Go ahead.
If I can
Go
interject, this guy, he threw almost he landed almost twice as many strikes as Glover even came close to landing. Like it was 108 to 62. So not only did he took it to, even though it was a battle, do you think he kind of drew it out specifically to showcase his stamina as well? Because I know that was also a knock against John Jones, that he couldn't always last in a fight. So do you think this was he making a statement?
He was making a statement, and the statement he was making is that he was not afraid to stand toe to toe. As everyone knows, DC is on one end of the spectrum of a certain type of fighter. A ground heavy wrestler, and a guy who will sit you against the cage and grind you out. And a lot of people don't like that style of fighting, but it's a good self-preservation style, if you will. I mean, you could even compare Daniel Cormier is kind of like a good version of what a Floyd Mayweather would look like in MMA. Somebody who knows how to grind you out and protect himself and come home with the W. It may not be the most spectacular, but to win doing that is incredibly difficult. Okay, and then on the other end of the spectrum, you got Bones Jones, who throws them soup bones at you rolled in bows. Let's start a little ludicrous real quick. I mean, that's what Johnny Bones Jones does, you know. So I think he showed that he wasn't afraid, and he was not gonna. People felt like when he fought against DC, Gustafsson was a little hesitant and kind of let DC dictate the pace of that fight. And Glover Teixeira is definitely one of those types of fighters who will go out there. He's got that uppercut, and at any time he can put the exclamation point in the night. But Gustafsson seemed to just kind of land those punches anytime he wanted to, anyway. And I mean, the way he just totally just ended it in such frightening fashion at the end of the match. Like you said, to your credit, mentioning his stamina, to be able to pull it out like that and not be just dead on your feet, that's saying something. So
dude, that's in MMA. Yes, that's exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, these guys are obviously not taking anything away from Glover. I mean, I wouldn't want to tangle with them for 15 minutes at all in any way, shape, or form. I mean, these guys are warriors. These guys are pinnacle athletes. And the fact that he decided to make a very thorough statement on something that wouldn't have been a big audience drawer, this means something. Here's what it means. It means that there are these little glimmers of the old UFC still in the eye of Dana White. Even though Dana White does not own the company, he is the face of the company. And without the Fertitta brothers at his side right now, there's a lot of pressure on Dana White and his staff to produce results. And so after the last couple of UFC events, some of the fight nights that have been coming up, there's been a consistent great performance in the main card. And this is one of those times. So if you're a UFC fan, if you're an MMA fan, and you've been worried about UFC, a night like tonight gives you hope that the UFC can pull it out despite the tumultuous landscape that is at hand. This leads me to a conversation it's been out there. It's been had with the few people who vehemently watch UFC, MMA, all style of mixed martial arts, televised fighting, and it's something that I've been wanting to talk with you about because in my circle of friends, you are the most up on MMA. So I had a few questions here I wanted to ask you, BK, and get your take on it because you are my resident expert on this stuff. You touched on a couple things where about shades of previous UFC, how it used to be. Can you kind of expand on what do you mean when you say that as a MMA? First of all, how long have you been watching mixed martial arts?
Well, as you know, back when I was in high school, when we were in high school together, I've always been a fan of combat sports, even more so than I am a fan of like football and other team sports. I do love NFL. I'm from Dallas, Texas, so of course you gotta love football just to be able to even be born in that place. It's almost like in Texas, it's like you know how on 300 where they throw you out back and you die as a baby if you're not of a certain specimen. Yeah. Well, the little secret of Dallas, Texas is if you're born and you don't like football, they throw you in this pile of dead baby bodies. So you have to love football.
If you don't like football, you can't go to this here school.
Exactly,
so I need you to know how to run the wishbone.
Exactly. In Dallas, Texas, like when you go for a sonogram for your parents to see if you're a girl or boy, they don't see that. They just want to see if there's going to be a star inside, to see if there's a little Dallas Cowboys star. So of course, I mean, I love football, but combat sports has always been something that I've been a fan of. Back in high school,
you've been watching this for like 15 years, give or take, this type of...
Yeah, basically. I mean, I've been watching it back for, ever since, Hoist Gracie was somebody, and you had guys coming in with like one boxing glove on and one off, so that they could grapple but punch at the same time. Even WWF had a little foray into it when they had Brawl for It All, where there was a little bit of MMA action going there too. So I've been a fan of MMA, mixed martial arts, ever since it was in its infancy. But when it really picked up and where UFC was really on the map is when The Ultimate Fighter was on Spike and it was free to watch, and the whole concept of you didn't have to go on pay-per-view anymore to watch the UFC, when Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner in a free fight on Spike TV lit the whole world up. This is like, Facebook wasn't even really as popping as it was. So, and it caught on like wildfire, and I've been on it ever since then. And so the Fertittas, who really own, Zuffa, they own the UFC. They recently, in the last year or so, sold the UFC. And it might have been 2 years ago. I mean, time moves so fast. But what has been true is there's been a lot of injuries. Their biggest star, which was Ronda Rousey, she hit her prime, like right on. I mean, I don't know. Let me be careful.
This leads me into my question. Before you talk about when you say prime, do you mean fighting prime, popularity prime?
No,
break that down when you say her fighting prime.
Here's the thing. Prime. Here's the thing with Ronda Rousey. Okay. Ronda Rousey is an amazing athlete. I want to say that first and foremost before I say the next thing.
I say that to say this.
Anybody here out in Atlanta who's watched a UFC event with me whenever Ronda Rousey was fighting, I remember the first time she fought when they basically handed her the belt after her first fight. She didn't really earn it. I felt like they should have had a tournament for her to earn that belt to begin with. And, she was fighting people like Miesha Tate and people who weren't, people who weren't really proven yet, or either that or people who were past their prime, which Miesha Tate definitely was past her prime by the time she got to UFC. So,
in essence, to give credit to kind of like your Madden cover conversation on one of our previous podcasts, she wasn't the MVP, but she got the reins as if she was.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey reminds me of that Quentin Rampage Jackson type of fighter. Rampage Jackson was an awesome, charismatic fighter, but once he got in the ring with a John Jones, he had to go back to Bellator. It was just a different level. So I think that Ronda Rousey has a couple issues. One, she's an amazing fighter that when she was doing what worked, which was that armbar and being a ground submission type of fighter and using her judo prowess, she was doing a great job. When she started getting this idea that she got a knockout she got a couple knockouts, and all of a sudden she got this idea that she was
a boxer.
From her coach Edmund Tavari, from Edmund Tavari, that she was some sort of like one-hitter quitter type of fighter. She's never been that type of fighter, and that's why when she got in the ring with people who were that type of fighter, she got eaten for lunch 2 times in a row. So I think Ronda Rousey is an amazing fighter. I think she's an amazing athlete. I think she got high on her own supply. She got gassed up, and she started to believe her own hype. And that's the downfall of hubris, in the purest classical form of what we mean by hubris. That's what she is. So I think that she has some fight left in her. I hope that she comes back and starts to embrace her defeat and really learn from it and realize, okay, me losing doesn't make me a bad person. Me losing doesn't make me a loser. It just means I have a lot left to learn.
This leads perfectly into what I'm going to ask you about, because as you say, she got high on her own supply. Now my questions are: they're in it for the almighty dollar. Let's just be real about this. Dana White is no exception. I know that he didn't make $4 billion. Yeah, that was billion with the B in his pocket when he sold it, but I know he got a huge chunk, which led me to be a little curious, do a little bit of research, and speak to you about this. Ronda Rousey, she's a good-looking woman. She draws in a crowd. I would say if I had a business where I need people to pay $60 to watch something, I would rather put her on the card at the forefront and market that, as opposed to perhaps an unknown, maybe not as attractive, not as marketable individual, because I know that it will make me more money. UFC has hardcore fans who will watch every single everything that they put out, and then they have the market that you want to reach out to get more money. Correct? You with me on that one?
I'm with you so far. I'm listening.
So those type of events, as you say, she got high on her own supply. Well, Dana definitely contributed that. He over-marketed her to the fact to where people who don't even watch UFC were talking about Ronda Rousey.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Okay, I don't agree that they over-marketed her, and I think they did.
I think he did get more money out of somebody who wasn't even the type of fighter that they marketed.
Well, but they're in the money business. I mean, it's the fight business, so it's his job to make money. So it's the fighter's job to protect their head and neck. You know what I'm saying? So it's not his fault that she's not doing what she's supposed to do, and it's not her fight. It's not his fault. He's not a fighter. He's not a coach. As much as Dana White wants to as much as he may know about it, and you got to remember, Dana White has been in the fight business longer than the UFC has been around. I mean, this guy was brought to UFC because he was representing some of the fighters that were in the earlier stages of the UFC. You know what I'm saying? So he was a manager first. You know, this man is a manager first before he was a big fight promoter. You know, on top of that, he was a boxing promoter at one point as well. So Dana White knows the business. He knows what he's got to do, and he knows how he needs to market certain people. So there's a couple of things you can take away from this. Either you believe that he himself knew that Ronda Rousey wasn't everything she cracked up to be and knew she was going to get her comeuppance at one point or another. Okay? Or he intentionally stacked the deck by throwing her soft fights and then threw her to the wolves when it was time. I don't think either case is true. I think Ronda Rousey, when she did what worked, when she stuck with that armbar, and when she kept her training what it should have been, and kept her focus on what type of fighter she was, and she had a healthy fear of her opponents, she was great. The only way you evolve as a fighter, because again, remember I said I thought she was throwing softer fighters to begin with, but I don't think that they intentionally did that. I think it just the women's side of the sport wasn't what it is yet. Again, it goes back to when I was talking about Chuck Liddell and Forrest Griffin,
Stephen Bonner,
and Rampage and Rampage Jackson. There was a period of time where those were the kings of the sport, and then John Jones showed up, and then Alexander Gustafsson showed up, and then Anderson Silva showed up. Okay, the fight game evolves, so you have to evolve along with it, or you get run over. So when you take someone like Ronda Rousey, who gets handed her first L because she's not doing what works, and she's not being realistic about what she actually is offering as a fighter, and is not playing to her strengths, then only thing she has left to play to is her weaknesses. So she's playing to her weaknesses, and then on top of that, after she takes her first loss, which everybody loses, everybody loses at some point or another. It doesn't mean you're not a great fighter. It just, you got to come back from it. Well, instead of coming back from it, she wallowed in it, became a recluse, threw herself into doing movies and stuff, and didn't keep her focus. You have to be a fighter first. If you're going to be a fighter, you got to train hard, you got to work hard, you got to grind it out, and you got to learn from your mistakes. What does she do when she comes back and fights her second time around? She goes and tries to stay on her feet again and gets knocked out again. Okay, so here's the thing.
I appreciate that part. As a fan,
right?
Are you as a fan? I'll say this to say, I'm a Cowboy fan, born and raised.
Right.
Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys. He bought them for $150 million, and they are the most valuable franchise right now on the planet. Jerry Jones is an excellent businessman. Now, he knows a lot about football, but he is a businessman first. He's the owner and general manager, which is not often out there, and it's a very well-known joke about around us Cowboy fans of it's time for Jerry Jones, the owner, to fire Jerry Jones, the general manager. He manages the team as a franchise. It's huge. He has practices out in California specifically to have California fan bases. This guy is the reason why the Raiders are even moving to Vegas. He has that type of pull in the league. And I say that information too because as a Cowboy fan, sometimes it bothers me that he is business-minded first over the Cowboys instead of fan-minded first. So I ask you, as a UFC fan, and also off a recent interview with Dana White when they had UFC 211 here in Dallas a couple weeks back. He called in, spoke with Bad Radio, Bob and Dan, on 1310 The Ticket, spoke with them, and Dan asked him the hard question of, are you shifting to more of the money grab because you have enough fans by now? So, and this was generated all because of the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather money promotion, whatever that thing is possibly going to be, that Conor McGregor's already signed off and just waiting for Floyd to take it. And Dana straight up said, well, I'm in the business to make money, and this is entertaining, so be it, in essence. And I respect him as a businessman, but I want to ask you as a fan, how does that make you feel? Does it feel that they're putting fighters, are you going to be more entertained by that, or do you want to see fighters in the ring who are fighting for their pride, a title, a chink of this warrior armor in history to have your name on it? How do you feel as a fan hearing that from him, openly being okay with, yeah, I'm okay with admitting that I'm doing this for a money grab because I know that this isn't what UFC fans want to see. However, people will be interested in seeing it. How does that make? How do you feel as a fan?
Well, you just said a lot, so let me unpack a little bit.
I know that was a lot.
Let me unpack let me finish off the Ronda Rousey discussion. So anyway, in terms of how. Well, in fact, let me finish your part, and then I'll bring it full circle back to the Ronda Rousey discussion because it'll work better that way. So first and foremost, you're talking about a fight that has nothing to do with MMA. Okay, you're talking about
correct. Yeah.
So Mayweather and Conor McGregor are just two fighters of different sport. Okay. Yes,
completely different sports.
Yes, they're both combat sports, but the sport of boxing is not the same thing. And what you're in the psychology.
We wouldn't put Tom Brady in a game of horse with in a game of horse versus LeBron James because they're both great athletes, but it's completely different. Game.
Well, no, more along the lines of you wouldn't take Tom Brady and then put him in a rugby match. Yes, they both have similar rules, and on the face of it, it should be a similar type of play, but it's not the same game. The rules are completely different. All right, so you got to think about it in terms of what is this about? This Conor McGregor Mayweather fight has nothing to do with the UFC. It's got everything to do with fans came up with this. Fans egged this on. Mm-hmm. It's a reflection of our times that fans have a voice now that they never had before. If you think about like the WWE, part of the problem that the WWE has right now is that the fans have the ability, or what they call the WWE universe, they have the ability to boo a guy off the show in the middle of the show, which you can go online and you can see happen to Roman Reigns right after WrestleMania. Okay, so that's the power of fans now, and they can directly affect your product in ways that they don't understand can be detrimental. Okay, so a fan knows what they want, but what they want may not always be best for the brand. So this fight is something that I believe Dana White hoped would not actually happen. In fact, he even said, I have a better chance of subbing for Tom Brady in the Super Bowl than this fight happening. And when it started to come out, it said, one of the reporters said, when they realized it was actually going to happen, he goes, looks like you're going to be subbing for Tom Brady next season, huh? It's like, it's one of those, it's one of those things that's just like, it's got nothing to do with Dana White as the chairman of the UFC. So yes, this is going to end up being a money grab because all it is it's just Dunkin' Donuts. There's no nutrition to it. It's just sugary sweet, and it's what the people want. So he's going to give them their popcorn flick because that's what they want. And if they're going to give him money like that, because boxing has 10 times more like money making opportunity than the UFC has. Okay, so of course he's going to do it. Of course he's going to do it. It's going to get more eyeballs on his product. It's no different than if UFC. I mean, the UFC even did a quick little trade thing with they have little dealings with WWE every now and again. So they're going to do whatever they can. as it pertains to UFC and Dana White, the chairperson of the UFC, his mentality of what he has to do for his fighters and how he needs to promote the product, that's a different, separate and apart thing. He can't control what Ronda Rousey does. He can't control how she fights. She's the champion. Okay? She put herself there.
Exactly.
So he's got to give her a challenge. And after a while, when she kept losing over and over again, it causes it's like if the X-Men go into the danger room and they beat all of the Sentinels inside of the danger room. Then guess what? The next time they go in there, there's going to be a new crop of Sentinels at level 10 this time. And that's what happened is Ronda Rousey did not evolve with her competition. You can't slay all the dragons and not expect there to be something bigger and badder coming your way. And that's what happened with her. Something bigger and badder came her way and she wasn't equipped. And she did not realize she wasn't equipped. And that's what's so sobering because it calls her into question. Did I ever have it? I mean, if you think about how this plays out in fiction, in Rocky, when Rocky got beat up by Clubber Lang, he thought he was going to retire right then and there. It took Apollo Creed to come in and say, "What happened to you happens to all fighters. You got civilized. You forgot what it meant to be a fighter. We got to take you back to the hood and get that eye of the tiger." And that's what she needs.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like she's got to go back.
That's right.
You can't just walk in there and have a mug face on. You can't go in there and fight a person and after wrenching their arm and almost breaking their arm, not give them a handshake and be the bad guy. This is stuff that she did. She acted like a little spoiled child sometime rather than a sports person. So
just for getting away from the gentlemanly sport of boxing or the gentlemanly sport of UFC. Don't forget we're in a business to do this. And to be honest, I don't fault Dana White in any way, shape, or form because any business is in the business to make money.
Yeah.
Yes, they may provide a product that enhances lives, entertains, whatever, what have you, but it's specifically to make money. I'm never going to fault him for even saying it and openly admit it. He's like, a lot of other sporting franchises wish they had something like a Conor McGregor, that type of fire, that raw talent of just how he is, and he's a good he's a character. There's not any other Conor McGregor out there.
Yeah.
And so yes, he's the perfect person to even promote this. Even Manny Pacquiao came out earlier today saying that if Floyd didn't do it, I would. So yeah, why wouldn't you? Hey, if you're gonna make, let's say a cool $1 million off a UFC fight, and you have the opportunity to, let's boost that up to 50 or 80. There's no one on the planet that wouldn't, because yes, let's do it. So I'm glad that it doesn't deter you or affect you in any way as a fan, because honestly, if he's in the business of having a business to make money, and more money means he can put back into his franchise, it took me years to realize that that's what Jerry Jones does with the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? His marketing, the fact that he took $150 million team and made it worth over $3 billion. The fact that he did that, yeah, it did take away some of the sporting aspect of my team, and I know that I'll never get that back. However, once it really comes down to it, he's supposed to put a product on the field. Now, it's an added benefit if that product wins and we're in Super Bowls, but he's been the number one like I said, his franchise has been the highest valued for decades now. Number one jersey sales, all because he is that businessman, and Dana White's not too far behind him. With this particular information. I applaud him for branching out, and what's great is, even if this doesn't happen, the fact that people have been talking about it for a year by that point drew in enough. He got, just by saying, hey, Floyd Mayweather just pulling in the big name of Floyd Mayweather into the discussion and attaching Conor McGregor to it, created a perfect device of, even if it never happens, it's already happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. It's already over. We're talking about it right now. You're talking about it right now from a fan's perspective. And I appreciate you taking the time to answer those here, because like I said, you are the foremost authority on UFC that I know personally, so I do thank you for taking time on educating us.
I won't say all that. I won't say I'm an authority by any means. I watch a lot of UFC.
I said it in my circle.
I just watch it. I watch it a lot. And just to say, to button
I dare
up,
somebody to tangle with you.
Exactly.
I dare somebody to tangle with you.
And just to button up this conversation, what the biggest issue that the UFC has had and why fights like UFC Fight Night 109 Stockholm is so important is because UFC, it's a individual sport. It's a combat sport. So stars are everything. Unlike boxing, which has all of these different promotions, this is just one single promotion. So if you want to make sure that your product gets a lion's share in other competition like what I'm looking for, like Bellator, if you want to make sure that your promotion gets the eyeballs and gets the lion's share of the money, and you don't lose market share to Bellator, then you got to have stars. It's just as simple as that. And so the only way to continue to get stars is to continue to stay out there on the road and to continue to stay out there and promote. And that's what Dana White has been doing. I applaud him. I mean, if you want to find something really fun to watch, we talk about Hulu, we talk about Netflix, we talk about all of these other networks that have really great content. But YouTube is one we don't talk a lot about. I'm a big YouTube Red subscriber, and I love it. And on YouTube, they have Dana White Looking for a Fight. They're in their second season, and it is an amazing show. It's like Man vs. Food combined with Guy Fieri and Action Bronson and like fighting all into like one thing. So like, fuck, that's delicious.
BK, can I interject really quick?
Go ahead.
I think Guy Fieri is a Super Saiyan.
He's so silly. Anyway, he's so stupid. But anyway, like if you are a fan of Action Bronson and fuck, that's delicious, and then you combine that with like fighting.
Shout out to Action Bronson.
Yeah, which I love that. Shout out to Action Bronson and Baby Blue is my favorite song ever. Those two shows, you put those together and you get Dana White Looking for a Fight. And it is an amazing show. And you get to actually see Dana White going out here and recruiting people and see what he's doing to help bring that brand awareness back. So he's running a marathon like he's got 4 thighs right now. And on that same show, he's also got who has he got? He's got Matt Serra. That's right. He's got Matt Serra and Dean Thomas. Which Matt Serra, I mean, I know we're going off on a tangent, but it just shows how
it's all
in order for UFC to be a well-rounded brand, they got to do more than just have the pay-per-view, and they got to do more than just have the TV stuff. They got the YouTube reality show with Matt Serra on there. It was a former champion, the only man to really go down in history as besting George St. Pierre. But then on top of that, then they got the podcasting piece. And they got UFC Unfiltered, it comes out 2 or 3 times a week, and you can get that on iTunes. It's one of my favorite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. And then while they got that going on the podcast front, then you got Joe Rogan, who is one of his color commentary guy, and he's got the Joe Rogan Experience, and he does Fight Companions, which he had a live Fight Companion tonight. So you got this landscape of, in order for brands like UFC to work, they have to change with the time. So they can't focus so much on the fighters so much. They got to focus on what can we do in terms of brand awareness. We can't control if a Ronda Rousey will be ready to go on Fight Night. But what we can do is show them that we're doing everything we can to educate them on the sport, since it is a young sport, and we're doing everything we can to get talent out there. So them going even into the podcasting world to do it, that shows that they're very savvy. I mean, podcasting is something that 10 years ago you wouldn't have thought that you and I would be sitting here and we would be recording this. Nor did we think that there would be a demand for such a thing. But now everybody and their mom,
we wouldn't have. And honestly, you're right. Everybody, there's so many out there. There's so many out there, and just like what we do with this specifically to help you filter out your media. It's not limited to movies. It's not limited to games. It's not limited to TV shows. We also tell you how to filter out even your podcast the player way. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
BK?
Now you're kind of new to the whole podcasting thing, right?
I'm not going to lie. I'm new, actually new to the podcasting part. One of the more common ones I listen to are usually like weekly wrap-up shows, one of my favorite radio show here in Dallas. But you have actually told me about a couple ones. I've touched on weekly, is it weekly games chat?
Oh, you talking about that Facebook post I posted with the summer podcast playlist? Man,
you laid it out there on those, actually.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of shed some light on that. We got a little time left in the show. I'll tell you what. Yeah, let's do this real quick. What we're gonna do real quick. We talked a lot about UFC. This is definitely, if you've been looking for testosterone and you were wanting some sports, this was the sports episode. So shout out to everybody who was telling us that they wanted a little bit more testosterone in this episode. But we're gonna make it a real rounded thing, and we're gonna tell you guys.
And also shout out to bacon pancakes.
Absolutely. He's so stupid. And
that way we can make some bacon pancakes.
Bacon pancakes.
Take some bacon, I'm going to put it in a
bacon
pancake.
Bacon pancakes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, man, you had to post your summer podcast playlist. Of course. What do you want to? Let's count it down. And then we'll wrap up with.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do for you out there. If you are still new to the podcasting thing, or if you are looking for more podcasts like me, I listen to probably 8 different podcasts a week. At least 3 or 4 of those are staples, and then some of them may be like mini series. Like S-Town or Serial, and then I'll be looking for something else to listen to. So I'm not going to talk about like the super popular ones that everyone listens to, because that would be a waste of time. What I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about I want to help curate your summer podcast playlist with some that are my favorite, that are like kind of more independent level. That if you like the Player Way, then you'll love these as well. So in no particular order, because I love everybody. We got Geek versus Week. Geek versus Week, a guy named Tony Henderson is in charge of that, and he's got a couple of people with him on that one. It's a similar Player Way. It's similar to Player Way, but it's more about what happens throughout the week from a geek perspective. So it's a little different than ours, but if you want to delve more into
not to be confused with the nerd.
Exactly.
Not to be confused with the nerd.
It's not the same thing. But
so is this more technology?
No.
Related?
It's just more. It's more deep into the geek street cred stuff. So like, we may gloss over a bunch of different things, and we may touch on some geek stuff, but we also come back to sports. We're more on a alpha male perspective, and like a guy's guy type of thing. They're more into like the world from a geek perspective. So it's interesting. I listen to it myself.
So the things that we sometimes touch on or gloss over, they may actually expand.
They do a deep tissue massage on it. Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then another good one that's just getting started is by a photographer in Georgia. His name is Jay Daniel, and his podcast is called The Dreamer's Blueprint. He's just getting started on that one, and he's an amazing creative. I actually had a project out with him a few years ago called The State of Play, which we're probably going to be bringing back some episodes of that on PlayLifeYourWay.com pretty soon, the Play Your Way network. But yeah, he's a creative that's just getting started with his podcast, and he's got a couple of episodes out there where he just kind of goes off and talks about an element of life from a creative's perspective. It helps you look at something a different way. And along the same line of that type of open-ended solo podcast, you got the Nice Guy Cast by Karan Nangia, or you might call him Keith Nangia. Either way, he goes by either. And it's a guy who lives up north, who has gone to law school, and is a very educated guy, very well-spoken. And he just talks about all manner of things. If you are a person who loves the DCEU, if you love guys who make dope memes, this is the guy you want to listen to. He's a really cool guy. Shout out to Karan. I love calling him Karan Nangia because I love that name. So listen to the Nice Guy Cast. That's the name of his show. And then there's another one which I really probably have to give like an honorable mention out of all of these podcasts, because it's the podcast that basically got this one started. And it's called Weekly Games Chat. And I've talked about it on the show before, but it's got hosted by Chris, John, and Sean, and they talk about just video games. So if you want to know what the newest video games are coming out, they do a weekly review of a game if there's something interesting out there. And they don't just play one system, they play all different types of stuff. They do Xbox One, they do Nintendo Switch, they do handheld games, they do They do PlayStation 4. They even do poop games, stuff that you would play on your toilet on your iPhone.
What about
board
games? Do they review board games? Do they review board games?
No, but like video games, man. He's so stupid. They review video games so that you are not bored.
Oh, I like that.
There you go. See what I did there? Right. So that's a fun one. And then the last one I wanted to talk about is a show called Amazing. I believe it's called Incredible Stories. The Incredible Stories. Let me look it up real quick because I just found out about this one this week.
Incredible Stories.
Yes, Incredible Stories. And then the last one that I wanted to talk about is it's called the Incredible Stories Podcast, and I just found out about this one. It's by this guy who talks about, like, if you're big into history and little known facts about certain history changing events, life altering events from a different perspective and from a story teller type of perspective. Incredible Stories Podcast is a great one. Their latest episode is about this guy who actually was in the bombing of Nagasaki, and the man actually survived the bombing. He was so disfigured by the blast that his doctor, who he went to high school with, didn't recognize him. His family didn't recognize him, and the man was in the hospital long enough just to kind of get some rest and stuff, and then got up like the very next week and went to work. So like, most of us would be out of work for like 2 weeks from like pneumonia or something like this. This guy spent like a few days in the stretcher and then got up and went to work. So like little things like that.
And he survived both bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
There you go.
And this is a story about, and you said he went right back to work after the week.
Yes.
There's such a reduction in our work ethic over the past 60 to 70 years.
Yeah, so I mean, there's tons of podcasting content, and then of course you got the Player Way with my co-host Derek.
That's me.
And Nate, who is not here this week, but we really appreciate you guys for coming back. Want to go ahead and wrap this thing up?
If I were going to do my Nate impersonation, it would be hi.
No, it would. Now here it is. You ready? You ready? All right. So toss it to me as if you're me.
All right, and then we got my co-captain Nate.
Yeah. Like that's Nate. That's Nate right there. Nate. Shout out to Nate, man.
That's right. Man of few words, but his words are of quality.
Exactly. But anyway, if you ever are looking for, maybe I'll write an article on playlifeyourway.com this week, and I will put up just a little primer and some links on where you can find those podcasts. But definitely, if you're looking on how to do podcasts the Player Way over the summer, definitely go there. But of course, we hope to see you next week on the next episode of the Player Way podcast. Big shout out to Derek. Thank you for having us, for being back again this week, man.
You got this, man. This is definitely what it's about. I'm glad we got this out here. We got to crank it out, man. Publicity, like and share. Tell your friends. Listen to it on the way to work. Listen to it while you're getting ready for work. Listen to it when your girlfriend's mad at you and you need some pointers on how to get back in her good graces. Anytime like that.
Absolutely. And if you write to us, you can actually write to us at playerwaypodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's playerwaypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to write for us, you can email us there. Or if you just want us to read some of your emails over the airwaves, we were happy to do that for you. But anyway.
Do that. Give us some subject matter, right?
Absolutely. But anyway, thanks, Derek. It's good talking to you, man. And hopefully Nate will be back next week.
Yes, sir, man. Let's do this.
Well, are you corrupting the system, my friend?
I am always corrupting the system, and Nate's not here to reconstruct it, so take that.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's the Player Way podcast recorded in a single take between Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. Not near Decatur, where it's greater, but we are in Gwinnett, and we're pretty cool too. So we'll talk to you guys next week, and hey, stay classy, San Francisco.
Not San Francisco, man.
Oh, it's San Diego. Stay classy, Stay classy, San Diego.
No. Forget about it all. Go watch.
Thanks for listening to the Player Way podcast. Recorded in a single take from Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, by Nathan Petersen, Derek Lewis, and BK Jackson. Our opening theme is titled Bound by Ricky Remedy, courtesy of Elysian Records. And our closing theme is titled Coconut King Diaries by Xander, spelled Zahnder. You can find this music by both Ricky Remedy and Xander, and many more tracks on SoundCloud. And remember, no matter what choices you make or paths you follow, just make sure you do it the player way. See you next week.